Alright, I'm Roy. Now that the introduction is over, I'm going to show you one of my favorite squats, one of my favorite forms of squat. It's an overhead squat. But before I do that, before I show it to you, I want to talk about squat form and protocol. Very important in any type of squat that you're flat-footed. That is, you're keeping your weight over your heels, but your feet are flat. You never want to go up on your toes and let your heels come off the ground. So even though you're flat-footed, you want to bear your weight over your heels as much as possible, because there's a line when you squat, if you do them correctly, that goes from your ankle to your hip joint to your shoulder joint. It should be almost a straight line. And what that does is it keeps pressure off of your knees. It keeps the weight bare where it should be, where the meat of your thigh is, which is really towards the top of the thigh and your glute area. So flat-footed, heels on the ground. I'm going to use a little Reebok step box here, because that's the point where I'm going to squat my bottom down to. You want to squat down to a point where your upper leg, your femur, is parallel to the ground, no deeper than that. A lot of people do these on a weight bench. Generally speaking, those aren't quite deep enough, so you can use blocks or something. I just think it's a good idea to make a habit out of squatting down to the same spot again and again. It's called common point of explosion, where you get your muscles, you create muscle memory squatting down at the same point again and again. The posture for this squat is going to be overhead, hands overhead, and they're going to stay overhead. I'm going to use a unweighted bar to give myself a little bit of resistance. You can even use a couple of little dumbbells, but the idea is that as long as you keep your hands overhead during the course of a squat, it's going to force you to keep your spine in a straighter alignment. It's going to take pressure off of your lower back. It's going to take strain off of your lower back and keep the weight distributed over your hips, your glutes, and your upper thighs where it belongs. I'm going to take a stance slightly wider than shoulder width. In this instance, I'm going to put my legs, point my toes slightly out, because my knees will follow my toes, and that's going to translate for a little bit more emphasis on the upper inner thighs. However, every muscle in the leg is going to be involved in this exercise in some capacity, so it's not a question of doing it for the inner thighs or the outer thighs. Everything fires. It's called all or nothing theory. When you do a squat with your legs together, legs wider, doesn't matter. Every muscle fires at least a little bit. In this instance, what it does is it just puts a little bit more emphasis on the inside portion of the thigh. So I'm going to hold the bar overhead like so. The bar never moves. It's not a question of it coming up and down. Keep it held overhead, and I slowly squat down, touch my bottom to that box, and come back up like so. Back up again. Stop at the top. Take a breath or two. Breathe in on the way down. Exhale through the mouth. As you push up, stop at the top of every repetition. Take an extra breath or two. I'm going to turn sideways now so you can see what the spinal posture looks like. Breathe in on the way down. Deep breath coming down. Exhale through the mouth on the way up. Great exercise for developing, again, the whole of the quads, a little bit of the lower back involvement, the glutes, the hamstrings, even the calves are involved in that at least a little bit. So every muscle from the hips down fires. End of video number 1, and I'll get ready to do the lunge video in just a moment.